going on, guys? Welcome in to episode, I believe, number 206 of Huskers Live on Christmas Eve. So for those of you that are taking the time to join me on Christmas Eve, I appreciate you, and happy early Merry Christmas to y'all. And we got a bowl game coming up Saturday. But we're going to start off with some portal talk. So over the course of the week, we've had a few commitments, and of course, the big ones coming the last couple of days outside of Williams-Winery. Dane Key, just going to be, he was the bow on top of all of this. And, you know, some of the indication was out of the Nebraska visit was basically Nebraska had closed the gap essentially. And it was down to Nebraska, Kentucky, and Illinois. Most people didn't really, you know, with the Illinois stuff. My buddy from Lockdown Illini told me he was visiting out there two or 3 weeks ago, something like that. So, you know, that one was kind of one that people didn't really know about. So, but Illinois really kind of had an outside shot, and it was more so, you know, the fit with Nebraska. He liked the quarterback position, liked what he saw with the offense, and ultimately what he was going to get here. So I'm going to go ahead and start running through some of your comments. But just so y'all know, I have a full film breakdown of Dane Key. I'll let y'all be the judge if you want all of the plays, because I have a pretty good bit of them broken down from a few of his SEC matchups, and I'll dive into those, kind of break those down in detail, let you know what we're getting, and we'll go through it from there. So, BA, what's up, man? Appreciate you hopping in here and leaving a comment, and the first one to comment. Nice to get Key. Absolutely. This wide receiver core just changed a lot, and Isaiah Hunter is going to be a guy, you know, I kind of almost talk about an Isaiah Hunter as almost kind of like an Isaiah Nair at Wyoming type of guy, where you can get him going in the screen game really well. I did the breakdown on him where you know, he's really one of those guys, you get him in space, get him operating in kind of, you know, he can make guys miss in space. He's got quick feet, you know, got speed. He does have track speed, but like I said, it translates a little bit more even to football speed, which you like from a guy. Good hands at the catch point. You know, not a Jamal Banks type of guy who's going to go up and get you balls like that, but can go up and get 50-50 balls, strong hands. And, you know, like I said, similar to Isaiah Nair, and then Dane Key's going to be one of those guys who can get you a little bit of everything, but he's going to be a route running nightmare. And that's what's going to make him, you know, one of the issues that Nebraska had this year, wide receivers creating separation. So Dane Key reunited with his old wide receiver coach, Nykel Shorts. And so that's going to be a good combination there. So any word on the portal offensive tackle from Wazoo? You talking about Famoa? There's not a whole lot out of that one just yet, but should know more about that one. I've been more focused on the Dane Key recruitment, and Andrew Marshall, who also I believe should be coming in, you know, before too long. Andrew Marshall is another guy I talked about where he's kind of one of those dual purpose guys, defensive backs, but just a return game. You know, he's going to be kind of one of those guys that we finally have a guy who can be a fixated return guy, something we haven't had in a long time. So I believe Tommy Hill was the first one we had over 100 yards, you know, in return yards. And since, was it DeMornay Pearson-L might have been since. So it's been a long time since Nebraska had a really good return specialist, and that's what we need in a bad way. So what's up, Walter? Appreciate you hopping in. Billy Boy, Merry Christmas, my man. Fong Wei with the Christmas Santa hat. Merry Christmas, Billy Boy. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas, Fong Wei. What's up, Chris? And Beef, what's for dinner tomorrow night? Let me just go ahead and give you what's on the table for today. Again, this is the last, well, not the last day, but I'm going to be announcing the winner of this giveaway on Friday. So again, if this is, you know, the On Athlete trading cards, this is a $70 value in terms of the box, 84 cards inside the box, 14 cards per pack, 6 packs per box. So, and essentially what it is, again, it's the one card that is specifically licensed for NIL, and the compensation goes to the athletes. Over $7 million paid out to those guys. So autograph card in every box, a lot of good stuff in here. So this is going to be coming to you Friday, the day before the bowl game. I'm going to be giving these out. So stay tuned to that. And the steps to enter, they're on my Twitter page at @the_H-Town Husker. One of the steps, subscribe to the channel, and then go follow me over there. Follow Voice of College Football. So go over there for those details. We're going to rock in 2025. Absolutely. We're drinking the Kool-Aid already. Merry Christmas, guys. I appreciate you, Steve. Thank you for jumping in, Caleb. Appreciate you as well. Let's see. Troy, happy holidays. What's the deal yesterday with the article stating that the Bama running back committed to NU? Not 100% sure. I was a little bit the day before yesterday, I didn't have I didn't have internet the whole day. My internet went out because my dog broke my router. So I was doing a little bit of catch-up work yesterday. So considering what expectations may have been at the start of the season, would the average Nebraska fan think that teams have been naughty or nice this season? Well, you talking about this offseason so far? Well, not technically the offseason, but a little bit of both. But at the end of the day, we made a bowl game. And I think entering the season, talked about this a little bit on Coordination's live stream yesterday. Entering the season, what do we want? We wanted a bowl appearance, right? So we got that. And now we're starting to see some of these moves take place where we're kind of getting in a win now mode. You got a couple of these guys with 1 year eligibility left, but a few guys that we can build around as well, but also can be immediate impact players as well. So Bama running back committed. Okay, yeah, because I was like, I didn't see anything in regards to him committing to Nebraska or any running backs really right now. Absolutely, man. Got to give y'all a show still. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm just going to pull up just a little bit here. I just want to show y'all Dane Key. First off, I'm just going to bring up his draft profile kind of breakdown here so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. Let me zoom in this for y'all. But what you're going to see over here is just kind of how they break him down in terms of the NFL draft. And he is a guy who's going to probably go early in the NFL draft if he plays out to his potential this next season, of course. But born 2 days, updated 2 days after my, why did I say born? Updated 2 days after my birthday, so it's pretty recent. 4.50 40 time. And I think the biggest thing that you're going to notice down here is just these things right here. I think, I would give his hands a little bit higher than this, but short receiving, intermediate receiving. Intermediate's where we struggled a lot last year. The short receiving game we were good in when we used it. The problem is Satterfield didn't use it a lot. So, but the intermediate routes and the deep threat ability, and one of the reasons all three of these are so high is because you're going to see it on the film, but his deep threat ability is what allows him to kind of break these other routes off. And that vertical press that he gives allows him to manipulate defenders' hips and stuff like that and really put him in a good position. Blocking, it's spotty on the film, but it's something that is a focus. And, Dana White. Why do I keep saying Dana White? Dana Holgerson had made it a point to really focus on that. So that's something that'll improve. But yeah, right now, position ranked, draft projection 3rd, position ranked 12. I expect that to go up. So, and you see the comparisons here. Jonathan Mingo, Cedric Tillman, Brendan Rice. So let me go ahead and dive into some of the film here, and then I will get into y'all's comments as well. So let me just pull some of these up, and I'm just going to start with the South Carolina film. So like I said, if y'all want me to kind of go through a little less of this, just let me know. But I'm going to actually, let me go ahead and start with the Georgia film. He's got a few plays in this Georgia film that I like. So let me get you to 1 minute, 4 seconds here, and let me share this for you. All right, and make sure let me know if y'all can see that okay. All right, and YouTube's been giving me some issues. I don't know why, but I'm trying to work this out with YouTube, but they've been demonetizing my videos for using all 22 film, which I don't, 3 of them. So I'm working that out with YouTube, trying to figure out what's going on with that, because these are protected under fair use and they're also not broadcast views. So they shouldn't be getting caught in the algorithm for any copyright stuff, but might need to make an adjustment there. But I'll continue to do these while I fight those issues. So, all right, 1 minute, 4 seconds here. Let me pull up my notes. So I kind of broke these down in detail. So, all right, this one right here, let me just let it roll just a little bit. And I'm going to let the play run, and then we'll go back and break it down. All right, see him up top of your screen there. All right, cool. So this play right here, you're going to see essentially what it is this guy right here is going to be covering this deep third. He's playing a little bit off zone, covering this deep third most likely, right? So his responsibility is going to be defending vertically. Now, Key wants to come up and run a little in-breaking route here. So you see the DB with his alignment. So he's kind of in a head-up alignment, maybe slightly inside, but really kind of head up on him. Now, with this little cushion, you're going to see him sell vertical to the top of his route. Now, one of the things you notice is consistent stride length, and he releases like as if it's a go route. So again, the deep ball is going to set up a lot of these routes for him. So sells vertical, keeps his stem, going in a straight line. And what he's going to do is you see these hips, these DB's hips are to the inside, and he has a little bit of a pocket there. He has a little bit of a crease. So what he does here, you're going to see a strong hip drop. I'm going to let this roll again. So at the top of his route, drop of the hips, right? So that real like quick dropping of the hips is the best way to decelerate quickly. And you're going to see him snap his head and hips around that quickly. And this defender really doesn't have, this is a timing route. So gets on it, gets in good timing, gets in a good rhythm, gets some good separation. And this DB doesn't have time to come down and make the play. So hard plant with the outside leg. You'll see the hard plant with the outside leg and a quick flip of the hips. So top of his route, you're going to see him sell just a little bit outside. You see him kind of running this outside to a little bit. So that way he can get this defender kind of, out this way a little bit before he makes that break to the inside. Plants with that outside leg, snaps around, and secures the catch. All right, 3 minutes and 26 seconds. We're going to roll to next here. All right, again, I'm going to let this play. And the one good thing about this play here is you're going to see this a lot in Dana Holgerson's scheme because this is going to be a mesh concept. But you see the motion up top right here. It's going to be man coverage. So I'll let this roll. We'll watch the play, and then we'll go from there. So you're going to see him coming from right here. Breaks that off, gets to the sideline. All right, so again, identifies the coverage there. You're going to see him come from this location here, and they got two defenders spread out over the top. So what he's going to do here is when he breaks out of he's going to press outside and vertical again, but this one is going to be a little bit more of a outside press. Gets his hands into the DB, right? Because the DB is trying to jam him there. So strong hands to really kind of make that DB ride with him, and gets a little bit of separation whenever this DB, feels like he's got him in a good position. He still sells that vertical, right? He plants upfield like he's going to go vertical, and then he's going to break this off again. So he's got the DB on this inside shade, and he wants to go out with it. So he's got him where he wants him with that outside break, gets him to the inside, creates a separation on that break. And again, just really smart with knowing where the sideline is, really knowing where his boundary is, slows up just enough, has enough space there, concentration, gets that catch, gets his feet in on the sideline. So again, we'll watch that one more time. You're going to see him out of here, pushing outside, breaks off, creates that little separation. So again, he's able to create separation in these really, really kind of tight window situations. Now this one over here at 9 minutes, this one's big because this one's this is a 3rd and 4 right here. So you're going to see this right here. He's going to get to the sticks, but this is, he's going to get, this guy was the SEC game MVP, had 2 interceptions in that game. So let me let him line up. So you're going to see just a little bit of a slight inside shade, right? And so this is going to be kind of a slant. So we'll let it run one time. So right there. Okay. So he gets jammed. He's trying to jam up the top of his route. So again, he's going to sell outside and vertical. Outside, vertical, outside, vertical. And then you see him try to get his hands into him at the top of this route. But what he's going to do, he hits his break. You see him planting with that outside leg already. And he's just going to do a swipe, a quick little separation of his hands, not interfering with him, not grabbing at him, just a quick little extension and a rip through of his arms to create this separation. He's going to break it a little bit inside here just to kind of get a little extra cushion so he can kind of get this extra separation from him. Breaks a little inside, comes towards the quarterback just a little bit, enough to where he can put that ball in the money. And again, big play on 3rd and 4. It's another thing I like to look for in these film situations is kind of the actual situation down in distance and stuff like that, like who steps up, in the big moments. So, and again, focusing on this game because Georgia is one of those really good defensive teams. So you get to see how he does against higher level competition as well. So, all right, let me go ahead and flip this over to the Ole Miss film here. And got a few plays from this Ole Miss film, but a lot of good stuff from this game. Had over 100 yards in this game. So, and we're going to start right here at the first play. And I'll go through your comments just in a second. I'll take a break from the film and we'll get back into it. So just so I can keep up with your comments. So, all right, first play here. You're going to see him. Oops, let me move my notes back. You're going to see him on this first play. He's going in motion. Let me see. Click it. Going in motion right here. I don't know why my mouse cursor is still so small, but right here, going in motion. I have it as large as I can on my actual screen, so I'm not sure why this is still doing it like that. So, all right, let's let this roll. And again, very similar to one earlier, but motions across. You're going to see this DB, right? It looks like a cover 3 look. You got this guy. It's closed coverage over the top. Open coverage typically indicates cover 2, cover 4. So you got the DB here who looks to be on an inside shade and probably is going to have to cover this deep third, right? So he's going to be on an inside shade here. So you're going to see him again. He's going to stem vertical and straight. Just straight, since he was already at an inside shade. Again, he's going to create that little bit of a cushion because this DB's job is to defend vertically and plants with that outside leg. Again, drops the hips to decelerate quickly, quick flip, strong hands, and immediately turns into a runner so he could fight for extra yards. So let that roll one more time. Well, they didn't really do me many favors with that second angle. So 2 minutes and 1 second. All right. So this one right here. Where is he at in this one? Okay, there he is. Motion across again. So this one he's gonna recognize the coverage and he's gonna find a soft spot kind of in this little zone, but he knows he's gonna have a defender that's gonna be defending pretty tight, and he's gonna have a guy over the top. So this is pretty good example of his strong hands and kind of the way he's able to use his body to get himself a little bit of a shield away from this DB to be able to just hold on to this ball, because he knows that the DB is probably going to try to make a play on the ball. So you're going to see him come from here. Just a quick little inside break, right? Just found that soft spot in the zone. Quick little inside break. You see this guy breaking on the route. Okay, so again, goes up and gets the ball, has it away from his body, knows he's going to probably take a hit right here. So what he does is he's going to catch the ball, bring it into his body, despite that guy having that rip through move and kind of pulling at that ball right there. Immediately turns himself into a runner so he could try to fight for some extra yards and gets a couple of extra yards out of it. So that quick transition into a runner stance is something you see too, just because he trusts his hands and the strong enough hands to be able to not just have to extend that away from your body. Because if you keep that ball extended away from your body, more often than not, that second guy might be able to break that free and or that defender on your back. So good understanding of where he's at positionally and how to manipulate the ball. So again, a little bit of a kind of an outside, he kind of breaks it outside at the start and just kind of flips quick inside. Again, understands this guy's probably going to be able to make a play on this, goes up and gets the ball. This guy's swiping at it, but still has the strength to bring it into his body through that. Going to take a hit here, but still kind of fights for a couple extra yards. Okay, so those are the really good plays I like to see, where he's taking a hit, taking some contact, fighting through some contact, and then getting up the field a little bit. So let me go through your comments just a little bit. Interested to see what ends up happening next year. Very excited about the talent being brought in. Don't get me wrong, just don't think player talent was the biggest issue with the team. Absolutely not. No, it wasn't for the majority of the season. However, we did have, issues at time creating separation. But again, to your point, that was a lot to do with the offensive scheme and just the lack of creativity there. So it's really hard, when you have an offensive coordinator who's not really setting these routes up or setting these route concepts up at all and just trying to run them, not setting up anything with the run, not getting defenders down into the box, not having the safeties cheat up at all so you can kind of beat them over the top. It's just kind of winging it. And a lot of the yards we got early in the season were from, man coverage, throwing it up, pass interference, that type of deal. So interested to see what next year looks like in a positive way. 100%. Offensive tackle and lineman in the portal. Absolutely. That is the must at this point. That would really put a bow on a lot of this stuff. A couple more positions of need, but we need a tackle in a bad way. And probably a couple of linemen. Why is Nair sitting out? This will probably be his last game. Yeah, he He just opted out probably to try to get ready or prepare for the draft. Again, it's one of those things where they train for it, try to see what they can do at the combine to see if they can work their way into, at least undrafted free agent and or trying to work their way into the back end of the draft. So yeah, that Iowa drop, that's not a good way to go out. Yeah, exactly, Walter. Just right on cue. Nayer's a drop at Iowa. Yeah, because that probably changes the entire game. That's a win if he catches that. I want to see wide receivers that can get some separation in 2025. Don't care if it's via speed, great route running, or quickness. You're looking at the guy right here. Georgia should wear black and or red pants. Go all red. That would be pretty sick, actually. Seems like he can get open on his own, unlike what our wide receiver room was able to do this year. Yeah, and he does it against a lot of high-level talent, too, and that's the biggest thing. Justin Herbie saw Will Howard throwing bombs on go routes to what looked like a well-covered receiver. You think Dana Holgorsen can work with DR and get him to trust his receivers more like Howard was doing? Without a doubt. And especially with, with the Jamal Banks, again, I think Jamal Banks had a ton of potential this season if used correctly. He was a talent that, he had 0 drops in 2023. And for the most part of this season, he had one of the highest in terms of if he didn't finish there, I'm not sure if he did or not, but in terms of just catch percentage. And so, he reminded me a lot of a DeAndre Hopkins style of player. But again, it just wasn't utilized properly. And to be honest, where Jamal Banks lacked a little bit was his route running and creating that separation on his own. Just very good at high pointing balls. He was okay with his route running, but I do think Dane Key adds a extra element in terms of just being able to create that separation on his own for sure. But I think more so Fongwei, I think a lot of the issue was less in not trusting his receivers and more so I think he lost confidence in himself because Satterfield was kind of leaving him out to dry with some of these play calls. You saw over the course of the middle of the season, he got a lot more choppy with his feet in the pocket. And that just says he's just kind of thinking a little too much. And when you're thinking, you're just kind of a half beat late, right? So even when these guys would have a small window and at the point you realize he wasn't reading the field correctly and he was kind of thinking was when he started getting lurked by linebackers, those couple plays where midpoint in the season, he hit those linebackers, and they weren't even really disguising it like that much. It was one step in and then they would step right back out. And so he just wasn't seeing the field properly. So I think it was less, he didn't lack confidence in receivers. I think it was more so he lacked a little confidence in himself because Satterfield was just putting him in situations. Now, as we got a little bit more into Holgorsen's, you saw Holgorsen getting him in a rhythm, right? And just getting him in the flow of the game, kind of hitting those underneath routes, taking what the defense gives, and whether it was 2 or 3 yards, like just seeing the completions go into the receiver's hands, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and just getting that ball moving forward, getting that tempo. That's what really, really helped him kind of calm his feet back down. And even though in the Iowa game there wasn't a lot of scoring, we were driving the ball down the field, So I do think that was a little bit more of it. I just think it was more so the confidence himself. He was just thinking a little too much. I'm sure if you asked him, it probably wasn't lack of trust to his receivers. But when you have, old Jeremiah out there on the outside, things in, Emeka Ibuka, things are pretty good out there. So, but Dane Key has the potential to be that guy that is that trusted guy that he feels he can go to on these third downs, like, on these quick slants to be able to create separation. With Dana Holgorsen, with Satterfield in the Purdue game, I point to this drive a lot, but, coming back with Thomas Fidone on a quick slant as the only read on third down, with Fidone coming off of a knee injury, and we know his cuts and his lateral movement isn't that good. It's just not smart, even in the personnel usage that he was using. So, Sat was and always a putrid OC, a putrid, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And the thing about with him too is just, I wanted to give an opportunity because in year 1, 2023, he kind of had a patchwork offense, a lot of injuries to that offense, and year 2 was going to be the make or break, and couldn't get it done. Information overload. All right. Do y'all like the information that I'm giving, or let me know if it's a little too in detail. I'm trying to make that balance of making it informative while still not boring you to death with the details. I just love film. So, all right. So let's see here. Where was I at? All right. Let's go to 1753. All right. Cool. All right. So this one, again, you're going to see him motion. You see him a lot of motions in this. So see him motion across here. And again, he's going to sell vertical off the line. One thing I want you to notice, again, consistent stride length. Sells vertical, consistent stride length. You see a little bit of a change in pace at the top of this, right? Look at his eyes, and watch his feet. He's got this defender now, he's threatening vertical. He's got this defender's hips now flipped outside because he's looking outside, and he's going to do a quick little stutter step, right? Stutter step to the outside a little bit. So this defender kind of sells that direction. And so as he approaches the top of the route, that slight change in tempo, the quick stutter step to the outside, sells it with his eyes, keeps his head up throughout, doesn't give it away with his arms or anything like that. Arms, hips, none of that. So the DB's hips bite outside, and that's going to give him this kind of inside advantage. Quick snap of the hips to the inside. Again, explosive cuts are what create these separations. And you see this separation out of his break. With this DB now trailing, he's able to kind of flatten that out a little bit and give him some extra space, kind of slow it down over the middle of the field to give his quarterback an easy target. And again, just a great play. We'll watch that one more time, full speed for you. I'll let that roll. Again, quick sell outside, quick feet, breaks, snaps the hips around, gives him a target, big target in the middle of the field. All right, let's see. 20. All right, here's a couple plays. So one of these is going to be a touchdown. The other one should have been, but he was interfered with. So this one right here, this is 3rd and goal, but this is going to be a penalty that'll set up 1st and goal in just a second. So this play right here, actually, where is he at? No, this is, yeah, there it is. So he's right here. Cool. Just make sure I had the right play. All right, so again, this is one of those where he's fighting through contact. Now, again, he didn't catch this one, so I just want you to kind of see. So he sells with the block, right? And then that plants that explosive step into the ground. So he kind of gets himself in a position to be able to take this inside direction on 9. But that selling of the block on that kind of inside handoff zone read, like kind of selling the fake there. And you're going to see him have to grab on and hold. So he's holding him right here. But again, still, even with that, puts the ball up there, kind of interfered with over the top, still almost makes the grab, but just kind of broken away at the last second. But again, just shows a little bit more of his route running, his ability to kind of be able to fight through contact. And again, if he wasn't held here, he probably makes this catch. So again, just kind of gets mauled right there. So this next play is going to be the touchdown. So all right, so you're going to see him on this outside here, and this explosive step off the line is what's going to give him this opening. So you see him kind of looking inside, communicating still. So what he's going to do is this guy right here is going to try to knock his leverage off, and where he needs to attack really is kind of his hips, but he's already kind of blown past him a little bit, so he has to attack leverage high, and at that point, it's a little too late to knock him off the route. You see him kind of just reach out a little bit too late. He's already passed him, so now he's kind of pushing to the top half of his body, and he kind of uses that a little bit to kind of break that separation off. He's going to kind of flatten it out behind this referee, kind of give the quarterback the signal, throw it his way. Again, slows down, trust his hand, slows down enough to be able to make the catch and not give himself lose that space, that extra cushion that he has on the sideline there. So touchdown there. And let me go ahead and pull up the South Carolina film here for you. And actually, I'll pull up the Tennessee film real quick. And just a couple plays on here. And this is kind of the big one that I wanted to show you. 5 minutes and 47 seconds. So All right. So you're going to see him lined up top here, and he's going to get interfered with in a big time way. And this is kind of what we saw last year when I was talking about identifying man coverage, and our receivers will get out of there a lot on the outside and, be interfered with. But he's going to go up and make this catch anyways. And so let me let this roll. You see the DB head up. So that's one good thing he's really good at identifying is when the DB's inside shade, outside shade, and how to attack that. DB head up right now. So you're going to see that little kind of stutter step off the line. Kind of gets into the this DB's jamming him, but he's kind of hand fighting back, but enough strength to kind of fight through that. He's not letting him push him off his spot too much. He's still kind of got his head back, controlling. Now he does this kind of like little dip under, tries to get a little bit more separation, unable to get it because this DB's got his hands all over him. Still kind of looks back to the ball. You see him getting held right there at the top. Goes up, still makes the catch, fights through the contact and the PI. So again, watch it from this angle. Let's see if they give us a better look at this than the other one. This looks bright as hell on the actual StreamYard. Not sure why. So again, just kind of creates that, the DB kind of just moves him to the outside, using that body as a shield so only he can go up and get it. High points that ball while he's falling backwards, is able to still get that away from the defender and hangs on the ball through the contact with the ground. All right, and the last one I'll show you on here, and then I'll go through your comments again. 30 minutes and 20 seconds. I think this is the play. Let's see. Let me see here. Oh, that's actually the run play. There it is, right here. Okay, I'm going to let this roll. All right. Cool. We'll run this back. So you're going to see him up top of your screen here. Again, he's got this DB playing off. Attacks vertical. Attacks vertical. This defender right here is coming underneath. Again, quick drop of the hips to decelerate, be able to quickly get his hips inside. You see this guy coming on the underneath to defend over that underneath, but kind of leaves his spot right there. He's going to extend this out a little bit. Again, just gives him a strong target, finds that void in the middle of the zone. Quickly turns into a runner, gets some extra yards out of it. Okay. Some of y'all's let me get through some of y'all's comments here. Stats offense was information. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. That was one of the things I talked about throughout the season was, we were just doing too many complicated things without being able to execute. And if execution's bad, well, then obviously things need to be simplified. But it seemed like when execution was bad, he would just continue to run the same things over and over. And the one thing about it too is there was just no identity. We didn't know half the time whether we were going to come out, try to establish the run. We didn't know whether we were going to try to be a deep passing team. We didn't know whether we were trying to run screens, and there were no adjustments mid-game. That was why we were having trouble scoring in the second half. There was no just underlying reason that was happening outside of just defense was making adjustments and Satterfield didn't know how to adjust. He would come out, and again, I just think he was in over his head with the offensive play calling. We saw that when that interview came out and almost forced Matt Rule's hand to be able to make that change. I'll take Banks over Nair. Yeah, 100%. Holgerson's the real deal. He knows how to get the best out of his players, and after the season, when he gets time with his players, something Sat couldn't do. 100%. Banks, we could have gotten so much more from Banks. I was in love with his talent. He's just a great receiver, and I still hold that to this day. Banks is a very, very talented receiver. Merry Christmas, Jackson. Appreciate you hopping in here. Isaac, Merry Holidays, man. I appreciate you hopping in here as well. Going to do a breakdown on the Cal receiver. Yes. So I did a little bit of a, kind of high level overview breakdown, but I will be doing film reviews on probably because I'm going to be going through this offseason especially, and I'm going to be doing film breakdowns on all of our commitments, some of the players that we already have on the team that maybe we haven't seen a lot of, and then also going to do these portal guys as they come in a little bit more. So yeah, I got some stuff coming for y'all on there. Matt Rule, head coach Matt Rule. That's right, Walter. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of the Boston College games. So I want to get y'all's prediction here on the Boston College games, and as those come in, we talk a little bit about. If y'all want, we could talk about the college football playoff and kind of the results of those. So, and what we did or didn't see coming. So let me just break those down real quick while I'm waiting on your score predictions to come in. So we had Texas, of course, versus Clemson. That was one of the games that I expected to go how it went. Clemson was one of the weaker teams, in my opinion, that was in the playoff. Barely beating SMU because SMU's offense turned the ball over a ton to start that game. Again, that was a trend that also happened against Penn State. That quarterback ruined both of those games for them. But, Texas just really solid defensively, top 10 in defensive efficiency. They stopped the run. They are very opportunistic as a defense. And Cade Klubnik is very, he's, what people talk about Quinn Ewers being inconsistent. Cade Klubnik is kind of a lesser version of that. And another one of the things Clemson couldn't do was stop the run. So, that was kind of something I saw coming there. Ohio State blowing out Tennessee was something I did not see coming. I have Ohio State winning the national championship. Believe it or not, my national championship, and you could agree with this if you'd like, national championship is Ohio State over Notre Dame. So, yeah, I predicted Notre Dame to kind of get over their issues with big games and beat the crap out of Indiana, which I personally love to see. I don't know about y'all, but for me, I was A-okay with that because not a big fan of the arrogance of Kirk Cignetti. So that one was fine with me. Indiana just got throttled. One of the things against Indiana this year coming into the game that I said would happen if we could stop the run was be able to put Indiana on, or Curtis Rourke, kind of on his heels a little bit, pin our ears back. But one of the things that we didn't do against Indiana is stop the run. They came out early with that long run, and that's when our defense got on our heels. And then from that point, if you don't, they're an easy team to rattle, but they weren't rattled a lot this year. You saw it against Ohio State, and everything goes off the rails because they couldn't run the ball in Ohio State. And now you saw it here. They couldn't, run the ball, got rattled. Notre Dame just has that depth. And they have that quarterback run element offensively, and that gives them a little bit more creativity on the offensive side of the ball. So it was nice to see Indiana get beat down, in my opinion. Again, some people are fans of Cignetti, but I'm not one of those. And then we had Penn State SMU. Again, SMU's quarterback, complete disaster. Turned the ball over like crazy. Again, SMU's defense plays pretty well in these games, but it's just one of those things they cannot get out of their own way in terms of offensively. So Penn State, of course, beat them down. And what is the game I'm forgetting? I'm actually drawing a blank on the other game for some reason. Y'all want to remind me? I'm going through your comments. ADHD, man, it gets me sometimes still. Best part of Nebraska playing the Pinstripe Bowl on Saturday at Yankee Stadium is that they will play the 66th anniversary of the 1958 NFL title game, aka the greatest game. Jackson, you're like, Jackson's an encyclopedia of college football. Just like Mark Rogers, Jackson can tell you anything you need to know about the history of college football. So, yeah, y'all, if y'all don't have Jackson on Twitter, y'all go give him a follow. But doing great things with the voice of college football as well. Even as an Alabama fan, Funny thing, that was the 1958 NFL title game played in Yankee Stadium. That's interesting, actually. Since 2004, Nebraska's total combined turnover margin is minus 117. That is insane. And it's no secret. Like, the last time Nebraska won the turnover margin was 2016, which coincidentally was the last time Nebraska had a good season. And coincidentally was the last time before this that they made a bowl game. It's crazy how that works. But turnover margin matters. And one of the things that I think Nebraska really struggled at this year was being opportunistic and forcing the turnovers. One of the things that, and it's not their fault necessarily, because the offense, continuously put them out on the field, put them in bad situations. And at a certain point, when the defense is on their heels, they're not going to play as aggressive, right? And with the 3-3-5, it's one of those defenses where, it requires a lot. It's a risk reward. So it requires a lot of man coverage. It requires a lot of, when you do go, step in front of a receiver to be able to try to, get your hands on the ball and make an interception, you need to be able to get both hands on the ball. Otherwise, the receiver could be running for a while. So the defense was constantly put in a situation to not try to allow those big plays, even though occasionally we did. But again, a lot of that was just them being on their heels. Sorry if I keep bringing my neck down. I'm having real bad neck problems. I got a pinched nerve in my neck. So Sigs got stuffed in a locker Friday night. Yeah. So hopefully you love to see that too. I should know. I remember watching the documentary about the fantastic finishes of the NFL when I was little. Of course, Jackson, no problem at all. Appreciate you hopping in here. Iconic Yankee Stadium was torn down. They're playing in the new stadium. Yep. They, that old right field out there. Yeah, you can go follow him over there, Jackson, the VOCFB, Boys College Football. I was at Yankee Stadium right before they stopped playing there. It was bittersweet because they missed the playoffs. Tell your friends and family, cashiers at Kroger, Magic, Justin Produce. Hey, appreciate you, Jackson. Appreciate you. What should the win total expectations be for next season? Let me pull up the schedule. Here. Let's run through this a little bit. All right, pull this up on the screen. All right. So opening against Cincinnati, of course, that one's going to be in Kansas City at the Chiefs Stadium. I expect that one to be a win, naturally. Nebraska should come into that game as the favorite, but opening games can always be very tricky, as we saw. When you don't open, the year 2023, we opened Minnesota, but Nebraska should also be the favorite in that game. I expect to pull that one out, and it should be somewhat of a home game. A lot of Nebraska fans will be able to make that trip as well. So, and there's a lot of fans that are Chiefs fans as well, Nebraska and Chiefs fans. So, Akron, again, the theory we go back to is if that Akron game had not been rained out, does that change things for Scott Frost? I don't think so. Absolutely not. But Akron should be a win. HCU Huskies, that's a win. Michigan. Now this one's going to be interesting because Michigan's quarterback situation is weird. They're bringing in a 5-star, commit, who is kind of the same rating as Dylan Raiola was, according to 24/7 coming into the season. Top rated quarterback, and they do a little bit different things. Raiola's more of a pocket passer. He's more of a kind of a dual threat type of guy. Can get the pocket moving, can throw, but he can throw on the run, but he's not quite as good with his touch. Doesn't quite have as strong of an arm. So Raiola is going to be more of your stand in the pocket passer versus their quarterback that's going to be a little bit more of a, kind of move the pocket and be able to kind of pick up yards with his legs, which can be tricky for Nebraska at times. So we'll see what this defense is looking like up to this point. But I'll say this one's kind of a 50-50 push. So we'll say right now the win total, we'll put it at 3. Because Vegas is going to be kind of conservative here. Michigan State, still think Michigan State is a team that is kind of in flux, building. The quarterback position was very inconsistent this year for them. Aiden Childs, has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. But I think Nebraska would be favored coming into that Michigan State game, especially coming off of a bye week, which last year was not kind to Nebraska, but I think this year with an offensive coordinator who can actually plan ahead, we'll be okay. Maryland, again, another team that Nebraska will probably be favored coming up against. Again, very inconsistent for them as well. They had an offense that could be explosive at times, but they kind of much like the season prior. Maryland, came out hot the season prior, but then kind of fell off a cliff. So Maryland really struggles at consistency. and haven't really been doing too much in recruiting in the portal. So Maryland should be a win. Now, I say should be. Not all the should be's don't really always come out to be. So I'll add these up at the end. Minnesota at Minnesota. That could be a sneaky tough game. So let me stand by on that one. Northwestern, Northwestern's one of those teams that can be frisky at times. I think it's the best way to describe them. They hung in with Indiana as long as they could. And in that Indiana game, you saw that kind of Indiana. They went blow for blow, but Indiana kind of, pulled away late just because Northwestern doesn't really have that explosiveness. They didn't really have the athletes to stick with them. This game's going to be at home, so that one should be a dub. USC. Now, USC is a team that is, potentially scary. They're sticking I don't know why I keep drawing a blank on these guys' names. Sticking with the quarterback that played against us last time. And I do expect him to get better. I do, Nebraska obviously handed them that game a little bit. He put the ball in harm's way. But they did have, at the time, they made that move because Miller Moss led the Big Ten in turnover-worthy plays up until that point. Miller Moss had his moments, great talent, great arm, and all that stuff as well. But the turnover-worthy plays and just sometimes decision-making. So we'll see how that progresses at the quarterback position there with them. That game's at home. So right now I'm just going to put this one at kind of a 50-50 as well. UCLA. Now UCLA, they got the Satterfield treatment, not the Holgorsen treatment. So UCLA kind of got out to a quick start against us. And by the time Nebraska's defense and everything caught its stride, really weren't able to kind of recover from that. I don't expect UCLA to really be that good next year. I don't see a lot of them, recruiting. I don't see a lot of portal moves for them either, just to kind of improve that team. And the jury's still out on the coach. So we'll see how that continues to grow. But I think that should be projected a win for Nebraska. Penn State's probably going to be a projected loss. Penn State, again, they're at that point where they're contenders right now. So Penn State is going to be a tough team to beat in the coming years. James Franklin, of course, is beatable at times and beatable in these big games. But again, putting together one of the better seasons that he's had there. And they're going to have a lot of momentum coming off of last season. So, and that defense is just, they can rotate 20 guys through that defense. I think they've rotated 37 through on the entire season. And they got a top 10 defense. So there's a lot of depth on that defense. Penn State will probably be marked as a loss. And then Iowa and Lincoln this year. Now, still waiting on to see what Iowa's going to do move-wise. But it's Iowa, so you never know. So let me just add these up then. So we'll go Cincinnati 1. Let me know what y'all think in terms of how you think this is playing out or what you think the win total might be. Oh, crap. Don't want to go to Akron. 1, 2, 3. Let's call this one a push. 4, 5. Let's call this one a push. 6, even though I think we'll win that one, but let's call it a push. 6, push 7, push 8. So I would say probably if I'm looking at 8 here, they might put it at 7.5 again. Just on the conservative side of things, they're probably going to put it at 7.5 again. That would be my prediction, just based on how Vegas usually kind of does these things. But let me know what y'all think. I'm going to continue to kind of rotate through some of y'all's comments here. Do y'all agree on the 7.5? I hate that we're losing Ben Scott. Yeah, absolutely. That one, Ben Scott, just one of those guys who's a, tried and true leader on that line too. And just been good since Arizona State. One of those guys that it's going to hurt to lose. So we'll see how this line, that's a big thing here, seeing how this kind of line does, losing, that centerpiece right there. But, a lot of talent, but we'll see what we bring in the portal. Again, I think we're going to probably push for another couple offensive linemen, at least if we land one in this half of the transfer portal period, try to hit the late portal period as well and get another one. Don't forget, Brington Show, Locked On Illini host Sonny Verma. Yes, Sonny Verma, shout out to my boy over on Locked On Illini. Do some film reviews for him as well. Some of my film reviews have been shared by the defensive coordinator, which is pretty cool. So, good stuff going there. Oh, Walter. See, Walter knows ball. Michigan ex-quarterback Alex Orji would be perfect fit in Rich Rod's offense. Yeah, Orji can't throw the ball. I don't, Orji's got talent, but it just seemed like I just don't know where the disconnect is for him. I just don't know if it was a bad offensive fit, but it feels like it is a pretty good fit for a skill set in terms of a guy who, kind of was a run first guy and should be able to play off of that, but just could not find that consistency passing the ball at all. I hope he's better than Isaiah. Dane, he will be. Feels weird not seeing Nebraska play Wisconsin. It absolutely does. Is this live? If so, this guy's yes, this is live. This is live, sir. We are live. Appreciate you hopping in here, Incog Jr. 2025, it looks like a 10-0 win for Nebraska. The schedule's on Nebraska's side. No Ohio State, no Oregon, no problem. Yeah, I'm not going to predict 10 wins. I just can't do it. Just that I think Vegas will put that over under at 7.5. And I think Nebraska is probably, if I had to predict this right now, let's say win. Let's just mark this as a loss, just because my bias. I don't want my bias to kick in, and we're going to include everything as a win. But actually, this one's at home, so let me come back to that. So 3, 4, 5. I do think we beat Minnesota. 6, 7. Let's say we lose to USC. 8, 9. So let's say Minnesota's a win. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 4, 5, and 2, 6 and 3, 7, and 4, 8 or 9 wins. That's what I'm looking at. That was kind of my prediction last year. But I put my floor at 5 and 7, and somebody in the comments was like, "How dare you say our floor is going to be 5 and 7?" Well, it's a floor for a reason, because it's absolute worst case scenario. And we're pretty close to that, but luckily we hit the 6-win mark. Not a Husker fan, but I'm subbing because you do at Christmas Eve. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is kind of my stress relief. Christmas is a stressful time for me, not to get sappy but I lost my dad, a week before Christmas when I was 15. So tough time for me. So it's nice to come on here. I love chopping up my community. So this is kind of a, good thing for me as well. So I do appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. When was the last time Nebraska went over Vegas regular season win total? Probably 2016, I would say. Yeah, I would probably say 2016. Troy, I got 8 or 9 wins for 2025. I see it the same way. I think this Michigan game is going to be very, very important on seeing if we kind of can break over that 8 or 9 win threshold. Because we got some games we should win. Of course, these are going to be important. Can't overlook, Cincinnati or really anybody. But that Michigan game, if we can get that Michigan game going into that bye week, I think that'll be very, very important in terms of how the rest of the season goes. Just Minnesota is one of those teams that plays us tough at times for some reason. And, Iowa always plays us close. So no matter how good or bad one of the teams are, appreciate it, Christopher. Yeah, it's one of those things, I kind of learned to deal with it over time, but the holidays are still kind of tough. So I enjoy being here with y'all. Go Big Red. Merry Christmas. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Oh, Buckeyes. Yep. I can rock with the Buckeyes. I got them predicted to win the Natty. So we are kind of in the same boat there. So we're allies right now. Hit the like button. I appreciate that, Conservative Husker. I appreciate you. If y'all don't mind, we got 72 people in here right now. If you don't mind hitting the like button, I greatly appreciate that. Thank y'all so much. Go Big Red. Go Big Red, Troy. All right, let me take a look here at what the Boston College Nebraska odds are looking like. So let me I'm not sure what the spread's at. I know the ESPN matchup predictor has Nebraska at 50.5. Let me pull it up. Here it is. All right. So the matchup predictor here has it, still at 50.5. Okay. Let's see. -3.5 Nebraska, they got it at. Now it's looking, the over-under is 45.5. The game, I looked at the weather yesterday. It's looking like it's going to probably be 35, maybe 38. So this could turn into a bit of a rock fight. But we're looking here at Castellanos. Thomas Castellanos came in, in the Syracuse game. That was his first game he played. Got a couple starts after that. We saw him come in, and then of course their backup quarterback hit the portal, so he's not going to be available in this game. So it's going to be Castellanos going for it. Castellanos played at FIU before, and I'm sorry, UCF, not FIU. I'm thinking of the other quarterback. But you see right here, first year at Boston College, not very accurate. This year, he kind of got better as the season went along, right? So got better as the season went along, and his last game was his most successful. I will say they target the middle, the underneath 0 to 9 yard part of the field a lot, and they do like to occasionally throw it deep, so that they throw deep more than they throw to that middle of the field. But it might be a little tough to throw it deep depending on, kind of how the conditions are. They are a very balanced team. I think it's like 190 passing to about 170 yards rushing total for the team. So they're a team that, thrives on being able to do two things. I think the biggest thing for Nebraska is going to be able to kind of just make sure we stop the run with them and kind of make them a one-dimensional team. And I think that's where we'll have success. So I think we're going to see a lot of, different mixture of fronts from John Butler. We're probably going to see, a little bit more four hands in the dirt, kind of a 4-3 look. 3-3-5 is kind of a combination of a 4-3 and a 4-2-5. Just a little bit of a variation there, but so I think we're going to see a little bit, kind of some bare fronts, especially if it's really cold. Just kind of go and head up with those guys and trying to just, get your pressure with your front four. And then at that point, you can try to mix it up with some of our, our younger guys that are going to be coming into this rotation as well. And, having a chance to step up. And for, somebody asked me who I think the MVP of this game might be. I feel like some young guy is going to step up and make some plays here, whether it be an already established name like your Shavers or your Willis McGahees. I have a feeling one of these young guys is going to step up and earn his keep. So excited about that. Bill O'Brien is somebody I don't like as a Texans fan. I do not like Bill O'Brien. He ruined us. So this is a revenge game for Bill O'Brien for me. But one of the things you'll see here is Thomas Castellanos is 5'9", right? So if we can get some pressure in his face, get our arms up in the air and try to just get some of these lines batted, at the line of scrimmage, or just get your arms up in his face and try to just make the throws more difficult to him. You see his QBR here isn't the best. QBR is an indication of how effective you are depending on the situation. Everything goes into QBR in terms of the game, the situation, penalty, all that stuff. So, he's an effective game manager when he needs to be. But he's not a guy who's just going to beat you throwing the ball. So you see his average here is 8.5, 18 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, long as 72. So they do have that deep ball ability. Pretty good when he's got time in the pocket. Doesn't get a pressured a whole lot in those last few games. I think he was only pressured about 31% of the time. So that'll be a point for Nebraska to not get on their heels defensively. So happy holidays from the Bangkok Czech. Hey, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you hopping in here. Shout out to Bangkok, man. We're everywhere. Nebraska looking up. Definitely been watching you guys the last couple of years. You're on a path to being in the lead again. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, it's looking that way. It's just one of those things where I got to stay conservative here, and till we kind of had that breakthrough. But year 3 in Matt Rule, I expect this to be a good one. I told everybody last year, just temper expectations a little bit. I think a little bit of what happened last year was, we came out of the gates hot, and all the media started talking up, 7-0 game against Ohio State and all this other stuff. And I think that's kind of where, it was this push of expectations and the bar being raised a little too high. And because, we came out 3-0 against, Colorado ended up being a decent team, albeit in the Big 12. But, coming out of that game, and then the Illinois game happened, and we still looked decent in the Illinois game, but that's when we started to see chinks in the armor. And that was the first game that I identified that, like, okay, we don't have an identity, because at no point did we try to slow that game down. Illinois came down and scored two of their drives were just one in particular, though, was 7 plays, about 5 minutes, and they completed about 4 third downs in that drive. And it was just kind of a methodical bit of a drive, but then we came back and scored in 3 plays and put our defense right back on the field. And that was kind of, it was one of those things. It's like, you're fine to score, right? But like, it seemed like we could only score in those big plays and those chunk plays, that type of thing. And that's kind of where we first started that see that consistency kind of fall in terms of our offensive driving and stuff like that. So Holgerson, though, I think is going to be the big difference this year for sure. Ohio State channel has a huge lineup of shows. Yes. Over there, my boy Garrison is over there doing a great job. So Garrison and Ryan Stanos. Yep. Great stuff over there, though. It's that channel's pretty big. I'm glad they got some people, kind of running that the right way. So it would be nice if Rule and Raiola win enough to stay so they could build an O-line factory again, seeing that O-linemen are becoming a more difficult asset to get. Yeah, I'm wondering if this JUCO ruling in terms of I wonder if that's going to make it a little bit easier to kind of land some of these offensive linemen out of the JUCO ranks. And that applies for NAIA too. So I don't know if Jalen Gramstead is necessarily going to try to get more eligibility. I personally think Jalen Gramstead is going to end up being a graduate assistant and ultimately being a coach. I looked at his bio when we first got him. One of the things that he did want to do is become a coach. And so I think that might be, kind of his path, but we'll see. Really appreciate the work Phil Simpson has been doing with our linebackers. Yep. And just such a big time, recruiting push from him in that Florida area, was able to kind of, make sure we retain some of these guys like your Shavers and your McGahees. So getting Phil Simpson was big time. Once a cap gets set, we'll have a better chance at these O-line players. Absolutely, 100%. And Isaiah World going against Oregon, that's tough. Oregon's got that Nike money, man, and they've been absolutely destroying it in the portal this year. Actually, go back and watch the highlights of the 95 Huskers, greatest team in history of college football. Salute, sir. That is correct, in my opinion. Definitely spent a lot of time debating that SEC fans for a year. A lot of people want to throw 01 Miami and 01 Miami. I'm not saying they're not one of the greatest of all time. They absolutely are. But I feel like a lot of what 2001 Miami is like people talk about what, let me take this off screen. People talk about what 2001 Miami was not only based on their season, but based on what those players became in the NFL. And that shouldn't be a factor in that. It should just be simply what happened over the course of that season. And if you look at the numbers from, the seasons and not look at the names of the players, because again, 95 Nebraska back then wasn't a team necessarily built to produce NFL players. It just wasn't their style. They were just a powerhouse college team. And if you just look at the numbers and just the dominance, 500 some odd yards of rushing per season, they just couldn't stop. They knew what we were going to run. They couldn't stop it still. Beat every team by at least 20, 21, 28 points, something like that. And then, killed every top team we played in the country. So yeah, absolutely. It's that debate is kind of it's one of those where it's like everybody wants that new team, then 2019 LSU, another great team again, but I just don't think we'll ever see a team quite as dominant, especially in the transfer portal area, quite as dominant as that 95 Husker team. So, ball, appreciate that. The Ohio State channel has a call-in show Thursday nights. I'm thinking about adding a call-in show to this channel. Let me know if that's something y'all like this offseason as well, so I can chat with y'all in the actual y'all can chat with me on here as well. Go Big Red, Justin, appreciate you hopping in here. Remember back in the day when Nebraska's offensive line would wear down the opposing team's defensive line? Yeah. Nebraska back then had the insane strength and conditioning program that just was better than every other team in college football. And that's what, and the utilization of the gray shirts and kind of that, walk-on tradition and the 500-mile radius. I think I broke it down this offseason, the 500-mile radius with those teams, it was about, I think almost 40% of that team was from that 500-mile radius or, Nebraska. And I did the numbers with the Scott Frost era, and that was down to about 7% from the state of Nebraska. And Matt Rule in his first 2 cycles got more recruits from the state of Nebraska than Scott Frost did in all 5 cycles. And that's kind of the lifeblood of the program, especially if you're a developmental program. Those guys close to home are typically the guys that are going to stay close to home because Gunner, stop whining. My dog. These German Shepherds, they never stop. But those guys close to home are typically the ones that aren't going to have to leave, if they have family emergencies, stuff like that. And that proximity to home, those are the guys that more often than not are going to stay with that program. Castellanos transferred. It was Castellanos transferred. Oh, that's my fault then. Was it? Did I have the right? Oh, I'm talking about Grayson James. That you're right. Grayson James. Castellanos was the starter. Grayson James. That makes sense. Now, hold on. Let me see if this let me go. Let me see if he was at FIU, and that's probably what I was thinking of. Grayson James. That is probably what I was thinking of. Now it makes sense. Let's go here. Yeah, that now it makes sense why I said FIU, and I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I appreciate you calling that out. I don't know why they still have him in there as the starter, but 66 compression. This is where the kind of what I was wanting to point at is the 51.4% completion percentage here. So kind of a regression here. But again, let's go back and look at Boston College's stats here in this Pitt game. So they did have kind of a little bit of a shootout. So this was his first game he played right here. SMU, North Carolina in this Pitt game. This was where he had his highest in terms of his PFF grade. I went through PFF grades and looked at these. So 20 for 28, 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. Robichaux, now they do have a duo of running backs. But again, I think Nebraska can really kind of, depending on the weather, they can kind of come down to that box and really stop that run, key in on that run and just kind of shut that down and hopefully make Grayson James have to beat you with his arm. Because again, it's just kind of been a little bit of a balanced offense here. They don't have any specific receivers that really are going to be their consistent go-to. If Harris is the one I'm thinking of, he just kind of excels in the deep ball. Yeah, again, 30.7 average here. So he's not a guy who's going to be a possession monster, but he's a guy who's going to try to stretch the field. And that's one of the reasons why they do stretch the field and target that deep part of the field so much. But like you see here, 4 receptions, 3 receptions, but 28-yard average, 25-yard average, 19.5. So if Nebraska can really kind of stop that run and make them have to kind of, set that up and kind of just be able to drive down the field and set up that deep ball, that's going to put them in a much better situation. Thank you for pointing that out. I was really confused for a second. At what I was like, I could have swore he came from FIU and not UCF. So appreciate you pointing that out. That really breaks that confusion out of my head. I was lost for a second. But yeah, again, they're a team that's kind of, about middle of the pack in terms of offense. They're about middle of the pack in terms of defense. You're going to look at, I think they were like 56th in terms of offense, 40, 46, 47, somewhere in that range in terms of defensive rating. So they're not a team. They're a pretty balanced team, but kind of pretty much mid-tier. I think this is a game where if Nebraska can come in here and I'm kind of showing you this stuff. It's not even on the screen. My fault. Let me go back to where I was then. So Grayson James here. So this is what I was talking about with FIU. So see right here, 66.7, 58.5, 51.4. So now you see the FIU I was talking about there. But 64% completion percentage, but it's very similar to kind of where Castellanos was. Castellanos, I believe, was at 61 or 63. But the one thing about him is they utilize a little bit more of the short field, right? His average depth of target's a little bit lower, 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So I think it was about 28% to the short part of the field, about 21% to the deep part of the field, and a little bit under that for the intermediate part of the field. So, and then the receiver I was talking about, let me go back to him. Reed Harris. So right here, 15 receptions, 461 yards, 4 touchdowns, 30.7 average. So again, he's a guy who's going to, he's got strong hands, big body guy. But they really want to get him going, up the field and kind of in that deeper range. So if Nebraska can just break that rhythm and that consistency up and not let them set that deep pass up by stopping the run and being able to play a little bit back, getting some pressure after the quarterback, I think it's going to be the biggest thing. And again, Grayson James is one of those guys who wasn't pressured a ton in those last few games. So I think one of the biggest things to really throw him off his game is if Nebraska get pressure on him. He struggled with that at FIU. He struggled under pressure a lot at FIU. So I think that's one of the things that will really, really help in terms of that and just kind of getting I think, with Nebraska, especially if this does turn into a rock fight, I like Nebraska's chances a little bit more with Holgerson's offense of really kind of getting these guys into space And he utilizes the short part of the field a lot more than they do. Again, the UCLA game utilized the short part of the field about, I think it was 21% of the time against UCLA. And then that was with Satterfield. And then moving into the next game, we targeted that part of the field about 31% of the time. So we went from 4 for 6 to that part of the field with a 3-yard average to 12 for 12 with about a 9.3 yard average. And that underneath part of the field is what got the offense in a rhythm. So if Nebraska can really utilize that short part of the field and kind of get that run game going and get everything, running off of that. Because again, Holgerson's offense is about spreading the field out wide, getting these playmakers a space and get the defenders coming grass, opening those little windows, making them a little bit, bigger of a window for Raiola to get to. You have those guys stretch wide, covering grass. It's a little bit harder for them to, take one step over and be in position for that. Instead, they got to take 2 or 3 steps over. But everything kind of runs off each other. So then, when you get that out wide, then you have, in the air raid, you typically have your linemen with wider splits. And the wider splits are going to open up the run lanes a little bit more. So, stretch everything wide, you get those wider splits, and that'll open up the run lanes up the middle. And then, of course, like I talked about in the film review earlier, a ton of mesh concepts. And mesh concepts are tough to cover because you can play them against cover 1, cover 2, cover 4. There's always going to be an option to go to. We saw that against Wisconsin, that wheel route out of the backfield with Emmett Johnson. That was set up by a mesh route that came earlier in that game where we threw it to the actual crossers. And so it's just one of those things where just got to keep Dylan in rhythm, keep the reads quick. And, I think this is a matchup that is really good for Nebraska. And it wasn't the sexiest matchup in the world. But, Boston College doesn't excel at anything in particular. So that's one of the good things about it. But yeah, I appreciate y'all dropping that in here and clearing that up for me. I was so confused. Do we Penn State or Michigan next year? If I had to pick one, Michigan, probably most likely. Yeah, Penn State's going to be tough. Yeah, Castellanos, they started the season against Florida State, of course. And then I think from October 5th through mid-November, they lost 4 of 5. Let me see if I'm remembering that correctly. September. Sorry, September 14th. I was a little bit off. September 14th. But that's kind of when the decline started because here they had a close game against number 6 Missouri, of course. But the decline really started at that loss to Virginia. I mean, it started here, of course, but still that was a close game against a team they should have lost to and did lose to. But again, kind of started here, loss. And then that SMU game put up a little bit of a fight. But it's one of those things where in the Syracuse game, that was, Grayson James' first little, just first time kind of seeing the field. And I think he became the starter after the SMU game, if I'm not mistaken. He was either the starter the last 3 games, or the last 2. Let's see, the SMU game. Yeah, so he did start that game. So 18 for 32, 237. So struggled there. But also, when I broke down Scott Simons, the SMU defensive coordinator, he's a really good defensive coordinator. We saw the issue with SMU's, not their defense. Even though Penn State scored a ton of points, Clemson scored a ton of points, that wasn't the defense's fault. Absolutely not. North Carolina, 41-21. He had a pretty good game here. 18 for 27, 192. But yeah, against Pittsburgh, that's really, really kind of stepped it up a notch, and they started getting that rhythm going with him a little bit more. 20 for 28, 253, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, yeah, I do like the matchup for Nebraska. The 3.5 point spread, I get it. Just because the over-under is so low, I think it's going to be one of those games, depending on the weather. The weather is, in fact, cold. Could be a low-scoring game. I think I predicted 27-17 for Nebraska. So, how's it feeling about next year with a really good quarterback now, good linebackers too? I think the biggest thing about next season is just having, Holgorsen and being able to see what Raiola is in terms of, when he has an offense that sets him up for success. And so overall with the defense is young. We'll see what we have with John Butler. But I think the staff hires across the board with the assistants have been excellent. I love every single one of these staff hires of assistants that we've gotten. And I think that really kind of across the board makes the defensive coordinator strong as a unit personally. Yes, 3 of the 95 pipeline grew up within 50 of Lincoln. So it is possible to build if we get wins 100%. Appreciate that, Chris. Appreciate you hopping in here. 95 Huskers had a one close game, won by 24 points still, and blew everyone else, including the Gators. Yeah. What was that 53-24 in the Natty? Crazy. Nebraska plays both Stephen, Michigan, and Lincoln. I'm sorry, I don't know. Stephen, Michigan, and Lincoln, Penn State, and not so happy Valley. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things is getting Michigan at home for sure. I think we have surprise win-loss next year. Penn State and Michigan games, I'm hoping for at least a 1-1 record. Yeah, I think if we split those, we'll be in good shape for sure. I think splitting those will be that'll probably get us to 10 wins, 9 or 10 wins. If I'm being conservative, 9, but potentially 10. Let's see. Nebraska needs to go try to get some of that Warren Buffett money. Yeah, I don't know why we're not trying to dive into his pockets a little bit. I absolutely do not. Way more than Phil Knight. Yeah, he does. Merry Christmas, Judy. I appreciate you hopping in here. Merry Christmas. 90s Husker teams would have crushed today's teams. A little, it's hard to tell because nowadays athletes are just bigger, faster, and stronger. Mainly because, people talk about, athletes being bigger, faster, stronger now, but it's like, yeah, of course, now athletes are, they got state of the art training. They have all this extra technology. There's recovery stuff, you got kids crushing protein and all kinds of stuff at 14 years old, 2019 LSU is overrated, had 5 games that were close and could have lost. I agree 100%. That's one of those recency bias ones. Again, and I think it's a little bit more because they had Burrow, Chase, and Jefferson, in terms of offensive talent. Yeah, one of the greatest ever, of course. But I think it should be a Nebraska Collins show, a Miami Collins show, and a Clemson Collins show. Well, we might get that Nebraska one soon. Steroids help. A facility 1890 and NIL coaches, now players finally give us a chance. And the push with 1890 now is one of the biggest differences, I think. The 1890 collective under Trev Alberts wasn't really pushed at all. First off, I didn't like the naming convention to begin with 1890, but I like how Troy Dannon came in and started to really make a push to kind of strengthen that up. And we're kind of seeing the fruits of that labor pay off because our NIL was struggling. No such thing as a developmental program anymore. There can be. And I think Nebraska, we're going to see that a bit with Nebraska. Again, Matt Rule talked about how he wants to break this up into 2 kind of 53-man NFL style, 53-man roster of players to play during the season and a 53-man roster of your developmental guys. One guy that I'm excited about, I posted this on my X a while back, but David Hufkin, the kid out of Germany, he's 23 years old. He's a grown man, about 6'5", 230, just, he's just long, rangy, athletic, and he's that guy that we signed this offseason at that camp in Texas. So really interested to see if we bring him out. He was originally signed or originally prospected as kind of an offensive tackle, but they ran some drills with him at the the edge position, defensive end, and they really liked what they saw there. So that's what we recruited him as. What's up, Gunner? Merry Christmas. Gunner left me. I got my other dog here though. Merry Christmas, Malibu. Brasco, I appreciate you hopping in here, man. Thank you so much. Checking in from the Philippines. Oh, we got Philippines too, and Bangkok. Checking in the Philippines. Looking forward to the pinstripe game. 100%. I appreciate you hopping in here as well. Dane Key, wow, just tuned in. Sorry, I'm hardly ever late. It's all good. If you want to go back, I did some film breakdowns on him. Appreciate you again, Walter. With all the transfers out, who will be our starting defense on the line, linebackers and secondary. If you want to go take a look at the depth chart, the 2 deeps are a little bit. I can actually pull those up in a second. I've said for the last couple of years, players. Now, if they trend upwards, can compete, the schedule plays in our favor for younger players to get experience in 2025. Yeah. One of the biggest things with Scott Frost that we always had like the 4th most talent off the bus. But no coaching, couldn't get those onto the field. So now, we'll see what happens this year. Now we got, again, some more talent coming in this portal and more yet to come. So leave special ed fully in New York. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. I think hopefully he'll get moved away from special teams, but I don't think he's going to get fired, honestly. So transfers can play for their new teams. Do we see any transfers play in the bowl game? I think they can practice with the team. I'm not sure if they can play necessarily. Let me double check on that. I think they can play for their old teams, unless they just change that. Can players play Bowl game. I think they have to have a waiver, if I'm not mistaken. It says college football players can technically play in the bowl games, even if they are in the portal. A player can play in a bowl game on a new team if they transfer that team before and are eligible to play immediately according to the NFL transfer rules. Yeah, I think that might require a waiver. I'm not sure the details on that, but I know that they can be in the portal and play for their old team for sure. So that'll be interesting, though. We'll see how that works out. I haven't really heard anything on who will, if any. So many weapons on O, and now it'll be harder for a team to stop them all. Yeah. And we still got, of course, our speedsters there. You got your Jalen Lloyds and stuff like that. So dealing with these weapons alone next season, Hunter Key, Barney. Yeah, it's going to be wild. And Isaiah Hunter is going to be a guy that I think we're going to see really kind of get, I think this offense is going to be a perfect fit for him. I think we're going to see him get some explosive plays, and just getting him out of the screen game, I think, is going to really help a lot. I think you have to be in the role with the school. Yeah, I agree. I think it's that, or you have to get a waiver, which are rarely approved. So I think that situation's a little bit, kind of hard to get around. They start playing if they meet academic requirements and new teams allow them to. Do you see Nebraska attempting less jet sweeps in 2025? I think we're still going to push lateral. But I think we're going to just make sure we are much better with our perimeter blocking. Dana Holgorsen talked about how bad that was and the effort was in that. But one of the things about, getting the offense spread out with the air raid is being able to attack, sideline to sideline as well. So whether that be with some jet sweeps or screens, I think we're going to see an improvement in those, but we definitely need to attack that outside in some kind of way. Huskers are doing amazing recruiting. They're number 18 right now, composite. Any other recruits that you guys are hopeful on? There's a few. I'm still hopeful on Famoa and Andrew Marshall. Andrew Marshall is another guy that I think we are going to land him, in my opinion. Special teams cannot be. Yeah, no, we need to be able to get snaps down next season. Absolutely. Davila is a sleeper pickup for the future. The story behind Davila, actually, he went to Purdue because Graham Harrell was the OC there. And of course, Dana coached Graham Harrell at Tech. And then Dana Holgorsen had also offered Davila when he was at U of H. So he knows kind of Davila's skill set. That was one of the reasons why, we went after him in the portal, because Dana Holgorsen's familiar with the skill set, knows, Graham Harrell, so he knows kind of what Davila brings as well, and also scouted him to offer him to come to U of H. So I think just that fit there too can make him, play higher than his potential if he does come on the field. Tired of hearing 95 would still be dominant was last time. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Players are just bigger, faster, stronger now, and it's these spread offenses. I think they can outmuscle teams, but it's just one of those things where it's just, I think it would be too one-dimensional in modern college football. Sula Fotu hurt. I love all those Polynesian offensive D linemen. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think he is, but I could be wrong. Never mind. When you look at how dominant 95 Huskers were, teams they played in comparison to 2019 LSU, Nebraska was more dominant than any other team in history, without a doubt. Stupid question. Of course, they can't play. They haven't started classes. Again, there's a waiver but it's rarely ever granted. Seems like NU going into next season with many players, because it's rarely granted because you have to meet certain requirements. There has to be a reason behind it. I'm pretty sure for them to approve that. So seems like Nebraska going into the next season with many players who are lengthy. This should translate well for covering the gaps. Yeah, that's been one of the big focuses, is kind of really getting that length. No problem, Christopher. Got to land Marshall, or cornerbacks are iffy. Yeah, and Marshall's going to be a great return guy. Like, I can't say it enough. He's going to be really good on the return game. Sip pronounced Graham. How did Sip pronounce? Oh my God, Princewell's name. I forget how I say. He butchered it. Oh man, that was so funny though. Walter, if you remember the pronunciation of that, put it in here, because that was hilarious. Let me pull up Nebraska's depth chart real quick. Bowl game. And again, if you're in here now, I just want to reiterate to this. If you want to follow me at _H-Town Husker, you can enter for a chance to win these cards on an athlete. Again, on athlete is a company that directly, it's the one company that has these license to, play players to their NIL. So a lot of this money goes directly to the athletes that comes from them. So follow me at _H-Town Husker. If you're not subscribed here, go ahead and subscribe, because that's one of the criteria as well. And if y'all don't mind dropping a like on this stream, we got about 80 people in here, so I appreciate everybody. Imama Miel, yeah, it was crazy. He even broke up, cracking up laughing because it was so bad. It's Sip and his pronunciations is very interesting. It's like he doesn't know what's going to leave his mouth until it's out, and then he reacts. Namielen. No, it was even worse. Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of what Mr. Brightside said there. I can't spell as bad as Sip. It was hard. I just want to make sure we won't see Cortez Mills suit up next year just yet. Pretty pumped about him. I think there's a chance. Like I do. I did a Cortez Mills film breakdown. I do think he brings a lot to the table that he's already kind of refined, but there is going to be a lot of work that still needs to be done. And I think these portal commits are going to buy him a little bit of time if they do want to, potentially redshirt him. But the talent's there for him to play next year for sure. Sip is tough to listen to regardless of the name or subject. That is true. That is true. All right, let me see if I got this depth chart here. All right, so find a better. Here we go. Kind of like these Husker Math depth charts here. So let me pull this over here and I'll share screen with y'all. All right. All right, so here we go. Get out of my way, Anna. All right, so we got Gunnar Gatula at left tackle, of course. Justin Effens at left guard. No surprise there. We see Grant Segrin in the two deep. Masha Jack in the two deep. Ben Scott, Sam Sledge, Hunter Latovsky, Grant Bricks, Bryce Benhart, Brock Knutson, and then we got Fedoni, Lindenmeyer, and Harburg at tight end. Be interesting. Oh, let me zoom this in for y'all. I don't know why this is so bright on the screen when I'm screen sharing. I'll try to figure that out for y'all. But slot, Ja'Cory Barney, no surprise there. Janiron Bonner, Carter Nelson, looks kind of chalk there. Banks and IGC. So probably going to see a lot of Banks in this game, I would hope. Jalen Lloyd, Alex Bullock, again, pretty chalk there. We got Raiola and then Gramstead, of course, being two with, Heinrich with transitioning over to tight end kind of full time now. We got Emmett, Ramir, and Quentin Ives. Quentin Ives is a guy to look out for. I'm very excited about him. Mekhi Nelson's dad was in my stream the other day, said look out for Mekhi. So maybe we can get to see Mekhi get some playing time. Ty Robinson, Keona Davis. Keona Davis, of course, the future stud there. Excited to see him in the future for sure. Ty Robinson. I think we'll have a big game in this one just because he's that run-stopping edge, whereas Jamari Butler was more so, that kind of pass-rushing edge. Nash in the middle, Elijah Judy, Dylan Parrott, Lenhart, Van Poppel, Mason Goldman, Bullock, and Shavers. Javen Wright, Dylan Rogers, MJ Sherman, Willis McGahee, and cornerback Sierra Wright and Bly Hill, Isaac Gifford, Ramir Stewart. One of the other, guys that I think is going to be addition by subtraction. No offense to Gifford, but he just was lost in this defense this year. He lost his eyes a ton. And what I've pointed out in a lot of defensive guys that we've got in the portal is they're very good at keeping their eyes. And Gifford was just very much player focused because he's a very downhill player as opposed to being focused on his positioning and where, positioning and where the ball is in the field and keeping his eyes on the quarterback and really kind of reading the play. And that's what got Nebraska beat over the top a lot. And I think that'll change next year. We got Buford on the outside, Marquez and Mario. Deshaun and Caleb Benning, Hartzog, Amari Sanders, and Jeremiah Charles at cornerbacks. So we got John Hull, Nico Otomanelli. Excited to see a little bit more from John Hull. He got kind of rolling as the season went along. Brian Buschini. So we got Buschini there, and then we of course got Jumpin' Jack coming in next year for the punter position. Excited about that one as well. Aiden Fledge came with Tukey, the long snapper, and then kick returner Emmett, Quentin, Ja'Cory, and IGC as the punt returner. So it'll be interesting to see some of these guys from these two deeps that get in here that we haven't seen a lot of this season. So, and again, I feel like one of these young guys is going to step up and do something really step up in this game and really make a name for themselves. We won't see Sip is tough to listen to. Kyle Manungai, Kalai Manungai. Oh, with the portal, we got to play those Frosh wide receivers. Yes, I believe Cortez Mills is going to see some playing time for sure. Under current NCAA rules, transfer players are eligible to play in bowl games for a new school if they transfer before the deadline and meet academic requirements. So I don't know what's the stipulation of the waivers. I wonder if the waivers are just to double check that the academic requirements potentially. I don't know, because last I checked, they needed that waiver. So unless that changed. Will Eric Ingwerson get moved to offensive line? He has a huge frame at 6'6", 260. I think that depends on how this portal season plays out for Nebraska and how many O-linemen we're able to land. I think we still have yet to see that play out fully, just because we haven't kind of finished up this portal cycle and the next portal cycle. So we'll see how that transition as the offseason goes along, but there's potential. Is Hartzog playing left out? Malcolm, is he playing? Maybe, I'm sorry, I just don't understand the wording of the question. If you could just reword that for me. I see a player cannot play for two teams in the same season. Yeah, I really need to dive into that a little bit more, because I've got that question a little bit. And with the rules changing constantly in college football, trying to keep up with that and the recruiting stuff, and it's a little difficult to keep up with all that. So I see why we're all confused there. It's perfectly normal. All right, guys. Well, I've been on here for about an hour and a half. Again, I appreciate everybody hopping on here with me on this Christmas Eve. If y'all don't mind dropping a like on the stream, or when we conclude, leaving a comment on there, again, it really helps me out. YouTube has been giving me hell by somehow copywriting some of my all 22 game footage. So again, if y'all do want to help the channel out a little bit, they demonetize those videos sometimes, and I'm fighting them tooth and nail on it, but it's kind of frustrating because I do a lot of work on those. Memberships are available. We got the $2.99 tier, which are the where'd I go? Oh, I went to click them up and I deleted them. The $2.99 tier is going to be the Big Red Loyalist. That'll get you some emojis. The second tier is going to be the $4.99 tier, which is the Black Shirt Brigade, which has the most people in it right now. And then the $9.99 tier is going to be the 5-star corn connoisseurs. Again, even so much as a view or a like helps me out. So don't feel the need to do that at all. But if you do, I got some extra content coming y'all's way, members only streams. We're going to have some watch parties next season. So if you do want that extra content, I'm going to have extra film reviews there as well. So if you do want that extra content, go check those out. And let me know what y'all want as well in terms of, I drop a question on the community tab sometimes about what y'all want in terms of content, so I can tailor make it and make sure, I just want to make sure y'all getting your money's worth if you are a member. So got about 13 right now. So, if y'all want to hop on there, really, really appreciate it. Walter, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you hopping in here. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you. Mr. Brightside, thank you so much. Thank you for the college football talk. I look forward to coming back. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that, man. I really do. Couldn't do it without y'all's support. So thank y'all so much. And appreciate you hopping in here, man. Great show, Justin. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to y'all too. Again, appreciate the support. Thank y'all so much. Be able to get me on _H-Town Husker. Let me click this away. _H-Town Husker. See it at the bottom of your screen to enter to win these. I'm going to be announcing the winner Friday, the day before the bowl game. So announcing the winner there. And again, thank y'all so much. And I will see you on the next video. Merry Christmas, everybody. Peace.